right, we are going to get started here. Welcome everyone to the December 2020 Proposed Service Improvements Public Meeting. I'm going to start off by saying that due to the COVID-19 pandemic, state of emergency, and Governor Beshear's executive orders regarding social distancing, this meeting will be held via video teleconference pursuant to Senate 150 as signed by the Governor on March 30th of 2020 and Attorney General Opinion 20-5 in accordance with KRS 61.826 because it is not feasible to offer a primary physical location for this meeting. My name is Austin Hughes and I'm the marketing coordinator for LexTran. I'm going to be walking us through some of our December 2020 proposed service improvements as well as our Healthy on Board next steps. So we always like to start off by reading our mission statement, and that is that we serve people and our community with mobility solutions. This is what we use to guide all of the decisions that you'll be seeing here today, making sure that we're always staying true to the mission and making sure that we're using this as the guide for the decisions. So here's the outline for the day, the agenda, what we're going to be talking about. The first thing we're going to go over is the next phase of our Healthy on Board initiative, and then we will be talking about the improvements for December. So those include the bay locations and the bay assignments at the Transit Center. Those will be changing. Route 8 will be getting some additional afternoon trips added. Route 11 will have a stop relocation, and Route 22, Mercer Road, will have a time point adjustment. So first is our Healthy on Board initiative. This is the next phase. So we have been requiring facial coverings throughout the pandemic, and we will continue to do that moving forward. On November 15th, we will resume front door boarding. We have had passengers loading in the rear of the bus since March to increase social distancing. And on December 14th, passes will be available for purchase online and at the Transit Center. On that date, we will also be issuing LexTran IDs and yellow cards once again. And then fare collection will resume on January 4th, 2021. And if you have any comments or questions throughout the presentation, feel free to put them in the chat. We will be addressing all of the questions and comments at the end. So first up for the December 2020 improvements are the bay assignments and the bay locations at the Transit Center. We will be having, the bays will be changing, the locations of where the buses load will be changing, and this is being done to accommodate improvements to the Transit Center, and that will be including pedestrian crosswalks, which will increase access to the platform. And this will also allow us to have all of the routes depart from Vine Street. We currently have a few routes that load and depart from High Street. This will move everything down to Vine Street. So we'll get into the specifics of those bay assignments now. So this is the bay assignment grid. It displays all of the bays and the routes that will load in them. You can see we're going from 6 bays to 7. You can also see that we have Route 21 and Route 24 still listed on this grid, but I would like to remind everyone that that service does remain suspended at this time. We will be adjusting all of the signage down at the Transit Center to reflect these improvements, so by the time these changes go into effect on December 20th, all of the signage down at the Transit Center will have this grid, will be adjusted so that the bays are labeled appropriately and that sort of thing. A detail about weekend service on the second note underneath the grid there is that the routes 1, 10, and 12 will load on Vine Street after the first round of buses leave during the first trip on Saturdays. That's the 6:20 a.m. departure, and the first and last trip on Sundays, which is the 6:20 a.m. departure and the 9:20 p.m. departure. And then finally, the last note underneath the grid there is that routes 4 and 6 will be loading in Bay 7, starting with the 9:30 p.m. departure. So the 9:30 p.m., 10:30, and 11:30 p.m., those routes will be moving back to Bay 7, and you'll see a little bit more about that here in just a second. Okay. So here we have a graphic that shows the transit center and where the bays will be located, as well as which routes will be loading in those bays on the Connect Blue. The biggest change here is that Route 7 currently loads in Bay 3, and once these changes take effect, it will be moving back to Bay 6. The other change is that Route 16 is moving down from High Street, like I mentioned, and will be loading in Bay 7. All right, next is the Connect Green. Here, the biggest change is Route 9 is currently loading in Bay 3, but once these changes take effect, it will move back to Bay 6. And then, similarly to Route 16, 13 will be coming down from High Street and will be loading on Vine back in Bay 7. And finally, here you'll see the late night service departures. So those are the last 3 trips out of the transit center Monday through Saturday at 9:30 p.m., 10:30 p.m., and 11:30. Here you'll see our night routes are listed. Those are routes 51, 52, 58, and 59. And those night routes correspond to where those routes load during the day. So for example, Route 51 is night Woodhill Drive. It's a combination of Route 1 and 11. During the daytime, routes 1 and 11 both load in Bay 1, so that is also where its nighttime corresponding route will load. As I mentioned earlier, for these last 3 departures, there's going to be 2 routes that are going to be moving back to Bay 7, and those are routes 4 and 6. Those typically load in a different position during the day, but those last 3 trips, those will load back in Bay 7. Okay, and as I mentioned, all of those graphics and all of that signage will be updated at the transit center, so it'll be easy for everyone to find that information and find where your route is going to be loading if it's moving. So next we're going to be talking about Route 8, Versailles Road. We are going to be adding some additional trips to this route in the afternoon. You can see in the graphic to the side there that those routes are the ones that are highlighted, or those trips are the ones that are highlighted in green. The first outbound departure from the transit center will be at 3:10 p.m., and then the final inbound departure of those new trips from the Emerson Center will be at 6:42 p.m. And these new trips will depart on Connect Blue between the normal green Route 8 trips. Next, we have Richmond Road, Route 11. As I mentioned, this is a stop relocation, so stop 903, which is currently along Richmond Road, just inside New Circle, will be moving up to the service road near Southland Christian Church, and that is being done to improve the safety of the stop and to increase access to the points of interest in that area. This isn't going to have any impact to the route timing. It's just going to be moving from Richmond Road up to the service road. Next, we have Route 22, which is Mercer Road. This is a time point relocation. So the time point at Lexmark outbound, which is stop 64, you can see it in the graphic there. It is one of the red dots. Will be moving from that area down to the stop at Newtown and Loudon, which is near the Fayette County Health Department. And then the inbound stop will be moving from its corresponding stop across the street there at Lexmark down to Newtown at Ash. This is not going to change the physical location of either of these stops. They will both still be in the exact same place. It's simply changing the time point, which is what you see on your schedule, and it helps the operators and the passengers kind of figure out when the bus is going to be at the next stop, since we can't list everything on the paper schedules. And this improves the safety of these stops and operational performance. And it allows for a better connection between Route 22 Mercer Road and Route 4 Newtown Pike. All right, to summarize here, we have that the December 2020 service improvements, those will take effect on December 20th, which is a Sunday, I believe. And the public comment period for these improvements will close this Thursday, November the 12th. at 8 a.m. Any comments received before then regarding these changes will be considered. And to make a comment, you can either send something in the chat now if you're joining us, or you can email info@lextran.com or call 859-244-2039 and leave a voicemail. And then finally, you can fill out a service improvements comment card at customer service down at the Transit Center. Also want to take a second to remind everyone of the Healthy on Board next phases that we discussed earlier. So on November 15th, front door boarding will resume. On December 14th, pass sales will resume, both online and at the Transit Center. And then also on December 14th, the Lextran IDs and yellow cards will be issued at the Transit Center again as well. And then finally on January 4th, 2021 is when we will be collecting fare. So that is everything that we have for these improvements, as well as the Healthy on Board next phases. So if anyone has any questions, we'd be happy to answer those now. All right, looks like we have a question asking if electric buses will still charge on High Street. Yes, they will still be charging at the fast charger up on High Street, and then they will load down on Vine Street after they have finished charging. All right, if we don't have any other questions, I just want to take a minute to mention we have on our website a place where you can fill out a form that kind of goes over all the initiatives that we've been taking to make sure that our service remains safe during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we invite you to come sign that pledge as well. If you sign the pledge, you commit to making sure you're wearing your masks on board, you're social distancing when you can, and practicing good hygiene. We'd be happy to send you one of these face masks that I'm wearing right now. So all you have to do is go on our website. You'll see that there's a blog post that has the form that you can fill out there. Just fill out the form, and then we will mail you one of these masks. So it's a good way for us to remind everybody that we're all in this together, and we're doing everything we can. So we just want everyone to be practicing all of those best practices as well. Are there any other questions at this time? All right. Well, if that's everything, thank you guys for joining us today. Please feel free to review all of these improvements as well as the Healthy on Board next steps on our website. And please reach out to us if you have any questions, comments, or concerns.